Hey, everybody. Welcome to Roosters on Olentangy River here in Columbus. It's Lettermen Live, brought to you by Roosters. It's a fun, casual joint. This is going to be a fun, casual conversation every single week talking about Ohio State. We finally have a real game to break down. 45-21, the Buckeyes win over Florida Atlantic. Down there is Jeremy Birmingham, recruiting guru. Here's the difference right here. Anthony Schlegel joining us for the first time to talk a little football. And you guys know Tim May, of course, the dean of this Ohio State beat. I'm merely Austin Ward to keep this show going. I mean, guys, for starters, 45-21, it felt like people were a little disappointed that Ohio State didn't keep winning, keep rolling up the score after they're up 28-0. But if you asked anybody, if you'd take a 24-point win in the opener against a pretty decent Florida Atlantic team, I think you'd have to come away satisfied. Schlegs, what'd you think?
I was very satisfied because the only thing I cared about was what the defense looked like compared to the defense of the last 2 years.
Right.
And I liked the way that they swung. That's it. I wanted to see the offensive line, and I wanted to see how the defensive looked. And they did great, right? They pursued. I loved the zone coverage that we were playing. I thought guys tackled well. And I was like, at the end of the day, for me, that's a home run.
Yeah.
That's funny because on the pregame show, 97.1, the fan that I get to do now and plug Lettermen Row, they were talking about what they wanted to see. I said I wanted to see how the defense plays. Is the talk for real?
Oh, yeah.
Or is it are the changes for real? And I thought when the number ones were in there, it definitely was a difference. It definitely was a difference compared to a year ago. Didn't let anything out of the gate, which was the big thing. And number two, I thought they played pretty sound most of the time.
It's interesting to me, though, because I thought, Berm, that for the most part, they didn't get too exotic. I'm not sure that we came away with a great feel of what a bullet is or how often the bullet's going to be out there. Because, I mean, frankly, Ohio State didn't need it to get through this week. They probably won't against the Cincinnati offense. We can get to that later on. But I think there's still some questions about who's going to be out there, how much, and what the silver bullets might really look like.
I think for a couple of reasons, Ohio State withheld a lot of what they are going to do against Cincinnati this weekend. Luke Fickell is an incredible coach, number one, and is incredibly adept at game planning. And you put as little as possible on tape as you can when you're going into a Cincinnati game, knowing he's already had 9 months to prepare for this game. So with all the question marks about the bullet, what they were going to do on offense, the under center stuff, all that stuff, you just don't let Luke see much of anything at this point and hope that you're going to be able to get through Florida Atlantic, a team that you're way better than, and just get through it without having to deal with all of the little nuance that you're still trying to keep away from someone like Luke.
You know what's funny about Greg Madison? I think he reminded me of Barney Fife because I'm not sure he ever took the bullet out of his pocket. Barney Fife was the.
How long have you held that one, Andy
Griffin? No, as he was talking, that's what I was thinking. Greg Madison is Don Knotts as Barney Fife. But I mean, like I said, they need to come up with that invention. A little flashing thing on Brendan White's helmet, whether he's in safety. S or bullet B, and let people know what's up.
I think that you just nailed it. It was a lot of BS, all the talk all summer about the bullet.
Well, I'm not sure it's BS, but
I'm curious to get Anthony's thoughts here on this one because
what do you got?
we've had so much conversation. We were going to talk about Justin Fields first, but we're talking about the defense.
Yeah, talk about it because they are number one,
and that's important for this team. I think that those two things go hand in hand, determining if they're a national championship contender, Fields and defense. But if we're talking about the defense, there was so much criticism about that linebacker position that you know so well for the last couple of years. Pete Warner, I thought, was a much better player on Saturday than he was a year ago, and I thought he might have got too much flack a year ago.
Yep.
Malik Harrison showed up with some of those big hits that you know well. But what do you make of that unit, the first unit, and those guys that are coming in to help in that second
So you got Tough, you got Barron, you have Pete, right, and Malik. They all played a lot. One thing that I did notice is, listen, when you play a lot of zone, you have to know where your help is. So some of those check downs, what I noticed was sometimes – if I have a hook curl player, so this is how it works, right? I got curl flat, I got a hook curl, curl flat, right? That's zones. 4 under, 3 deep. Well, if I got somebody underneath me, I have to know where my help is, right? Where I am on the field. So sometimes they went to where that curl flat player was, and the guy was able to cut back and there was no help, right? So that's one thing that they will adjust. Hey, where is my help? What side do I need to be on to push it back to free runners? That's number one. Number two is, you also notice that Pete, who plays Sam, was sometimes into the boundary, covering a guy on a slot, which is that bullet type position.
Yeah.
And I think that as we go through with this, it's going to be who are the best players on the field because Brandon's kind of interchangeable. And if they think Pete can cover a guy and he's better in the run, they'll leave him in. It's all predicated upon how well Pete plays. And he covered their really good tight end, who's an NFL caliber guy. On a run, he didn't really start it off well, but he was able to close a distance guy to incomplete pass.
Yeah.
So I thought they did a really good job that way. I really like some of his closing speed, Browning's closing speed. But overall, I thought the linebackers were better, and the reason is because they were well coached. That's the difference. Everybody wants to blame kids. Listen, they're 18 and 22-year-olds. They do what they're told. This isn't the league, right? So when you see guys executing better, right, like right now, it's because of the coaching, right? Yeah. And I truly believe this. Madison, Halfley, they have this defense, and then just boom, it permeates. Everybody knows what to do and go out and execute, and they coach their guys that way. And I thought Al did a really good job starting the season.
Yeah, we were told last year when things weren't going well that they were chopping the wood, they were chopping the tree, and eventually the tree would fall. And in that regard,
right.
About the coaching, that the coaching was good, that the players, and it kind of got ad nauseum after a while.
I think they tuned it out.
Right out of the gate, we saw something refreshing on Saturday, which was the defense playing pretty much sound football. Yeah, you're right. I mean, some of those, but I'd much rather have the quarterback throwing to the check down than downfield any day of the week if I'm a defensive guy, and they will get some of that ironed out. But you're exactly right. I think we might have seen the bullet Saturday disguised as Pete Werner, who is considered one of the bullets, as opposed to Brendan White, and so there you go. I'm sorry, Berman.
If it's interchangeable, the Sam and the bullet, and Pete Warner is out there, and there's all this criticism. I hear it on Twitter. Maybe I'm overblowing it, but
you're also listening to social media.
I am, and I'm trying to cover the team, right?
I know.
So I have to. Yeah. I don't get to tune it out like some players can, but he takes a lot of heat, and he's aware of it. He's told me that himself. He's out there for a reason. This is a new coaching staff, and they say he's one of our best guys, and he's out there in a position that, frankly, I mean, if it's going to be a true bullet, if he's going to be covering those guys you talked about in the slot, that's not easy.
No, it's not.
I don't think people want to do that. That's hard.
I mean, really
Sean Wade found that out last year against Purdue.
Right.
Now, that's not going to be a great match.
No, but it was a great challenge for Pete Werner. It was a great challenge for Pete Werner to get his feet under him in a true situation, reestablish himself, and I thought he did a really good job.
Were you talking about
Pete Werner's not going to cover Rondale Moore?
Well, right.
Let's be honest.
Well, he didn't have to.
Or Wan'Dale Robinson over at Nebraska or anybody like that. But I want to take it back to what you said about Baron Browning. That was like night and day watching a different player from the last 2 years to this past Saturday. There was first play of the game that I remember seeing him in. It was like speaking of a bullet, he was like shot out of a cannon into the backfield making a play that he would not have made a year ago because he was so deep in his own head. Like, you saw a guy that was able to read and react to a play that he was not able to do a year ago. And I don't like to say coaches aren't doing their job, but it was pretty clear that the defensive coaches last year had their players very confused.
Yeah.
Very confused.
Yeah, well, they're running into each other. That's a good sign.
Well, part of it is, too, like they're covering up, right? They got guys mugging up on a defensive line.
Right.
Like they can't see, right? Like this is how it works, guys. At the end of the day, if I'm a linebacker, I have to cover somebody. I'm going through all my pre-snap reads. Hey, I'm like, hey, listen, I got to cover a really fast guy. Well, first off, Fick, why are you making me cover a really fast guy? Second, all right, he's really fast, but I also know they only run one play to that side. Well, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to cheat over, and I'm going to back up. But if I have coaches tell me this is what you do all the time, then you take away what James Laurinaitis was great at, and that's the anticipation and knowing the game.
Yeah.
So this week I saw guys being able to read and react and just go play really, really fast. Now, the one thing you did see is that there's going to be times, especially in third and long, where they're going to have a soft corner and they're going to give up the 8 yards. And they made a couple first downs. You're like, why are they giving that up? Guess what? That's what happens when you play zone.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like I saw a game the other day. It was 3rd and 11 or 3rd and 12, and they were playing prevent. I'm like, what the hell are these guys doing? Right, but you're going to see a little bit of that, like you saw in the Trussell area with D'Antonio and Haycock and Fick, where they're going to have a soft corner. They're going to say, hey, throw it across the field. We'll swarm and make a tackle. If the guy misses, he'll get a first down, but we're not just going to give up the home run ball.
Yeah. No, I thought the home run ball was missing.
They had one. They had one over 30.
Yeah.
Toward the end of the game.
But that was more like a double.
Right.
Yeah. And that was, again, when they got really deep into it, and I think you're looking to it. You take the defensive lineman out. I said
that guy made a hell of a catch too.
He did.
Well, when you don't have Jonathan Cooper, Tyreek Smith, and Tyler Friday, those are probably your 2, 3, and 4 defensive ends. That changed everything. So then I only say that because you get to the 3rd and 4th quarter. You got Zach Harrison out there for the first time. Javonte John Baptiste really getting his first reps. There was going to be a drop-off. That's not Chase Young and Jonathan Cooper and those guys out there. They're going to have to get their reps and take a little lumps. That's how it goes.
I thought there were 2 definitive plays for the first-team defense on Saturday. One was when Harrison Bryant, their great tight end.
Yeah.
Caught the ball over the middle, and Malik Harrison welcomed him
Yep.
to Ohio Stadium.
Welcome to the shoe, baby.
And I asked Malik about that. What does that do for you? Just make it gives you confidence. I mean, it like you're talking about a home run. It lifts up everybody.
Absolutely.
And when the crowd just goes nuts, because that was a still legal hit.
It was a great hit.
Oh yeah, but over the middle, it's hard to get those legal hits anymore. And then the other one was when we're sitting there in the press box, and Chase Young is having a hell of a day, and I'm sitting there. They're like deep in their own end. I'm talking about Florida Atlantic, and I'm thinking this is where Chase Young just comes off the edge and makes a play. I mean, just makes a play, forces a turnover or whatever. Instead, he dropped off.
Yeah, you saw it.
Because you know what?
Yes.
But Florida Atlantic's thinking, this guy's going to be coming so hard, we're going to run a screen to his side. He drops off. They throw a screen, and he's the first guy in on the tackle. And I'm going, not only was that a great play by Chase Young, that was a great call by Greg Madison, et cetera. And I'm just thinking, boy, for once, compared to a year ago,
Oh, man.
they had their number.
Yep.
All right, Lettermen Live brought to you by Roosters here. Fun casual joint.
Fun casual joint.
Lots of food here for us to dig into in a little bit. Looking forward to that. But right now, we still got to talk about the offensive side of the ball. Yep. Well, Schleg's going to get started right now. That's fine.
It's a fun casual joint.
Yeah,
Let's go.
fun.
I know
you're
that
right.
if I don't dive
All right,
into
so
those
we're not going to go to Anthony right away here.
I can't eat and talk.
Justin Fields, 5 touchdowns in his debut. Berm. Everybody waited 9 months, talked about this guy. Was he going to be ready? Could he run the offense? Is he a Heisman contender? All the conversations were all over the map. And he has 4 touchdowns in the first 9 minutes and 5 in the game.
The world map. It was all over the world map.
Ties Dwayne Haskins for the most touchdowns in Ohio State history for a first-time starter. Not sure you can ask for much more.
Those are the 5 easiest touchdowns I've ever seen.
I've seen easier. Come on.
For just 5.
I don't know.
Talk about him. Let's
Those
go.
first 4 touchdowns.
3 of them.
He goes 51 yards untouched. He throws a 30-yard pass to a guy that wasn't covered, a 30-yard pass to a guy that wasn't covered, and a 40-yard pass to a guy that wasn't covered.
Well, that guy was
Chris
sort
Olave.
of covered.
Okay, well,
That
let's
guy
go
was
here.
sort of covered.
He was
It was,
covered.
the
He was covered
touchdown
for a
was
second.
blocked well. Let's give some credit to Josh
listen.
Myers
Yeah.
and Jonah Jackson.
Oh, yeah.
How about the route concept for Luke Farrell and Jeremy Rucker
Well,
to get open? How about the route for Chris Olave?
I love
Those
it.
are not easy
I
touchdowns.
love it,
Look
yes.
at- you're
I'm saying-
insulting the
I'm
guys on the
saying-
field, Berm.
No, what I'm saying is that the offense is obviously clicking.
Okay.
When you come out of the gate and you have 4 plays like that in 8 minutes,
Yeah.
everything is working. And included in that is the biggest question, is Justin Fields going to understand the offense? And clearly he understood the offense
Right.
because he read 4 plays perfectly. And then he did what you guys talked about on Tim's podcast, the hardest part, which is throwing the ball to a wide open receiver and putting it right where it had to be. And he actually missed one to KJ Hill on the next drive after the touchdown.
By the way, I want to see y'all when you're getting your fights, start grabbing food, throwing it at each other,
No,
because that will be the true
we're not
term.
gonna waste-
That
no.
will be that'll be the true term of winging it.
Yeah, no doubt.
We're not going to waste this delicious food.
But here's the
Come on.
thing:
Let's
my favorite pass he threw, if you want to get into that, was that when he
tight end.
stepped,
Oh,
when he
Olave.
put his foot on the mound and threw that strike to Chris Olave on a post cut. Basically, he ran a corner post, basically threw the guy off and broke open. But there was no doubt about he was going to drill that ball in there. KJ had dropped that ball near the goal line earlier, and he wasn't going to let this one float like that. His favorite play, as I asked him today at the press conference, it was the one I asked him about on Saturday. He kind of blew it off, but with time to think about it, he went, your first game, your third or fourth play
Right, yeah.
in Ohio Stadium. You're this glorified transfer from Georgia, this 5-star who beat out Trevor Lawrence in the Elite 11. How good are you? And he goes 51 yards, literally untouched. And like he said, as he's running, it was almost like a surreal moment, like everything had come together, this transfer.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that moment for him, just lifting him up? And from then on, it was, for the first quarter, it was Katie bar the door.
Yeah. Schleggs, I thought the best throw he made was the one that went incomplete to Olave, where he got the first real hit.
Oh, no, he
in
got smoked.
Yeah.
I agree.
I thought that showed a lot about him. I mean, you can't – if you're Ryan Day, you cannot save him. I know they seem to dial the offense back a little bit. If he's going to be a football player, he's going to get hit.
Yeah, absolutely.
If he's going to be the quarterback and play in the Big Ten, he's going to get hit. And I thought he stood in there, delivered it. That ball could have been caught.
Yeah.
That, to me, said a lot about him.
Yeah, it definitely showed his toughness. It showed, his pocket presence. Like, hey, I'm going to deliver a strike. It's for my teammates, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to deliver a good ball down the field. And he was able to take that blow, get up, and do it again because you're also asking him to run the ball, right? Like, so he's going to get hit.
Right.
And that's some of the things, again, like, I thought he had a great day, and then you're like, boom, you're up 28-0, and then the real thing is, do we take our foot off the throat? And that's the one thing I've always wanted from Ohio State, right? It's like, how do I teach kids nowadays to, like, put my foot on the throat, right, and, like, finish somebody?
Right.
Like, it should have been finished in the first half. It should have been 42-0. Right, because we had those 4 stalls, and that happens because we have turnovers. We're not executing. It's like, hey, we're Ohio State, they're Florida. Their defense started to rise up.
Florida Atlantic, not Florida.
Okay.
Do not,
FAU.
Do not mistake the two.
No. But yeah, FAU, their defense started to play a little bit better, and we weren't clicking. We had turnovers, and that's what you want to see. Like, that's what I want to see this next week versus Cincinnati is how does he take ownership of this team, gets in the huddle and say, listen, that last one, that was on me. I threw it behind him, whatever. Here we go, and now let's go execute this game plan and go right down the field. And sometimes that's going to be me taking off and running or stepping up and hitting a guy over, across the middle to move the chains, which I think he did better. Yeah, moving the chains.
Let me ask you a question. I want to ask you a question. When you come free like that Leroy kid did, Achilles Leroy, not Leroy Achilles. When you come free like that and you just nail the quarterback and you're out of the corner of your eye, even though you've gotten up, you're still watching. He's slow getting up, right?
Oh,
I mean, but then he does get up. I mean, what does that tell you? I mean, what are you thinking as a linebacker? Is it, man, I got a good run on him, I'm coming back? I mean, what are you thinking? You just changed the game. I mean, what are your thoughts?
No, you don't. So this is what normally happens. Like, it was funny. Somebody played a clip about the program and, like, smack talking. Listen, at the end of the day, in Division I college football at the level at Ohio State, like, hey, I smoked the guy. I did my job. Somebody did their job to allow me to come free. Yeah. Right? It would have been better if I sacked him, right? Because that would have won the stat call. But I actually hit him. I smoked him. Guess what? I get back up. Now it's, all right, what's the new call? Okay, hey, where am I going to set my front? Now, if he runs again and I smoke him again, it's like, hey, I'm here. I'm ready to go.
But you did just change the game to a certain extent because he basically backed off running or they backed off running him.
Right.
At that point,
you start to see those things, right? So, hey, guess what? This guy's going to give it this time. So if I'm the cutback player, you always have to have the cutback. But if I'm a guy and I'm like, hey, listen, this guy ain't coming up, so I got to help. Boom, I'm going to come over the top faster.
And here's what this is what impressed me about Justin Fields. That went that way for like a quarter and a half. But when they got their, back together offensively, a couple of runs by him were what changed it. Because suddenly now they have to deal with the fact, oh, my goodness, he's gotten his dauber back. He's coming again. You know, he's playing his game. I thought that was the difference in the second half when Ohio State got its offense going again. And
I think, to your point, I think that's why Urban last year wanted to see Dwayne run. It's like he could always count on JT to move the chains, right? If I have to, move the chains. And what you saw, right, when they started getting everything clicking again, it's like, hey, listen, it might be 3rd and 6, but I got to go move the chains. So I'm going to take off and run, move them, fresh set of downs, let's go execute the game plan. And I thought that was really mature, like a maturation for him within the game as a first-year starter. Like, hey, whatever I got to do to move the chains, I'm going to do it for my team, set it back up. Here we go.
Well, that's what's funny because I call it the RPO for a defense from a read standpoint because you saw them start doing this in second, third quarters. Their linebackers sort of like soft played. I'm talking about whether they were coming or going.
Right,
And then when they saw he was backing off the pass, they were coming. I mean, you know what I mean? And it was almost like they would step up, play the run, and then just keep coming. And you saw that a lot last year when Ohio State was trying to get its running game going and could never get it going because they did not respect the run aspect of the quarterback. And when he finally ran again, it changed everything.
All right, put it on hold for a second, guys. We got to remind Buckeye fans that the official wing sponsor of the Ohio State Buckeyes, Roosters, giving away 12 trips for 2 to this year's Buckeye Bowl game. Each trip comes complete with airfare, hotel, gift bag, and 2 game tickets to the 2019 bowl game. Maybe there'll be 2 of them. We'll see. One bowl prize winner chosen each week, along with other cool Roosters weekly prizes. So register every week at your favorite Roosters or at roosterswings.com. They reset it every week, so you got to make sure that you order, get in, register all 12 times. Roosters is a fun, casual joint and the official wing sponsor of Ohio State Athletics.
Can you text me those rules so I can get mine in?
You can get those at roosterswings.com. Yeah, I mean, well, you don't. I mean, well, that would save Will Cross some money if we don't pay for you to travel.
That's a good point, also.
All right, so that's Justin Fields. Unless you guys have more there, there's other stuff that happened in that game.
Like what?
The tight ends.
Hey,
Berm, how about this? You've been one of these guys begging for Jeremy Ruckert and Luke Fickell to get involved. Yeah. They got 2 touchdowns out of Jeremy Ruckert.
Ohio State has 3 tight ends on the roster that are top 5 tight ends in the country coming out of high school in Luke Fickell, Jeremy Ruckert, and Jake Hausman. And we just don't get to see them. I thought it was great to see. I mean, we joked about it before the game. Jeremy Ruckert had gone 13 straight games without a catch.
Right.
He had a catch in the season opener a year ago and then didn't catch a ball the rest of the year.
And that was his ballywick coming in.
And so then he gets a catch on the first play of the game, and it was obvious at that point that they wanted to get him involved. And then you see what he can do as an athlete down the field, which is a little different than Farrell and Houseman and even Rashad Berry. But what Jeremy brings is totally different, and I wrote about him last week, but this is a guy who's starting to understand that there's a lot more to being a tight end than just running down the field and catching the ball. And as you do the other things, the little things, to get involved in the blocking game and take ownership of that, all of a sudden you find yourself more open in the passing game, I think.
I think he got that at the end of the year last year. I thought he improved greatly as a blocker. I don't know if y'all agree or not.
Well, they started using him more around the Nebraska game.
Exactly. But, I think he felt like I think he got that, and I don't think he felt like he got the reward maybe he deserved. I'm not saying he was complaining or anything,
right.
But he's a different physical specimen there. I finally got it out than he was this time of year ago.
That's why I don't play linebacker.
Yeah.
When I was in the league, it's
Dude.
like, hey, listen, you're 6'1", you got to cover this 6'5", 6'6" guy who weighs 265.
Dude.
That sucks. That's not fair. I got Tyrannosaurus Rex arms.
I'm sitting next to Jake Ballard on Saturday,
well, yeah,
and I'm going. All I could think about was, okay, he catches the ball, and you got to tackle this dude. I'm just going, this is crazy. I mean, his arms are like trees. You know?
He's a monster.
Yeah.
He could play like left tackle.
Exactly.
Hey,
Jake's a fine.
He's
He played tight end at Ohio State. He basically was.
Yeah, exactly. He was a glorified tackle.
Except for that one alley-oop jump and catch. But you're exactly right. And the thing about Ruckert is, if they put that genie back in the bottle, I'll be on the record earlier, they're being stupid. They're playing stupid because this is definitely a field stretcher, game changer kind of guy down the middle that Ohio State has really not either had or taken advantage of for eons.
Yeah.
And if they get that going, and they were in 12 personnel when he caught that first touchdown pass.
Which they're going to do more.
Luke Farrell ran a streak up the hash, and Jeremy lined up at an H-back or a wing and cut behind him. The two defenders both ran with Farrell.
Right.
Their scouting report must really be funny looking.
Rucker's probably the most talented tight end they've had since Ricky Dudley in the mid-'90s, right?
Yeah.
Athletically.
Well, Jake Stoneburner was pretty athletic. I mean, they just never got to use him.
Rucker,
Jake did have 4 touchdowns in the game once.
Well, they remind me kind of like if you look at what we've had for Urban, right? So you have Jeff Hireman, who is predominantly a really good blocker.
Yeah.
Right? You had Nick Vanette, who is more of your finesse guy, right? And I think that, and then, Jake Stoneburner, I think he's like a combination of all of them and at that same size, right? And so those guys are doing well in the league. But what, to your point, is, hey, if I learn how to block and add value that way, I'm going to give my look because I'm going to be in the game. Yeah. And if I'm already in there, boom, they're going to dial my number up.
Well, his point is you don't get to play unless you do that.
The other point is Jake Stoneburner unfortunately had Terrell Pryor and Braxton Miller throwing him the football.
Bingo.
But it's also going to be really...
it does make it more difficult.
Oh, for sure. But it's going to make it... For Justin Fields to be able to have those easy outlets to get, that's why they got him in the game. Yep. I mean, a rhythm pass 5 yard out, good, go stop that, right? Now you start to put J.K. Dobbins out in the flat or hooking up over the middle, and you got these guys. That's where you're going to have your mismatches, and it's just on him to be able to read and deliver.
What's my favorite saying? No one covers the tight end consistently. Definitely in college football.
I believe
and if you don't use the tight end who has that kind of receiving ability in your passing game, because the mismatch, like we're talking about, is obvious to everybody, then you're not trying hard enough.
The tight end is always open.
I'm not sure that you
bingo.
You have a favorite expression.
Well, that's one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite.
We should digress, though.
That's more of a bromide because everybody should adhere to it, but everybody doesn't. I don't understand that.
I think it's funny that it's like Ryan Day is cutting edge now because he's going back under center and using 3 tight ends.
Yeah, let's get a fullback in there.
It's like,
did you hear what I asked him today?
It's like a throwback to the Tressel era, and it's like, this is now the new thing.
Did you hear what I asked him today? What, a quarterback under center? Who saw that coming?
Exactly.
We've been asking about it since spring. He's been denying it.
Yep.
And they thought they were going to keep that under wraps, and the second possession, boom, there's Justin Fields under center.
Lettermen Row heard about it when we detailed the benefits of going under center again. So
but I mean, I read about it in the spring when I saw him practicing, and I'm going, why would you practice if you're not going to do
it?
Just to take a knee.
Well, I know,
Just
victory formation. That's where they could have hidden that behind that, but they didn't. Go ahead, though.
All right.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Schlegel.
No, the good thing, too, is with the tight end game, you saw this, they went trips, and they moved the tight end up. Number 2 went up, and they brought in the one route that I think colleges don't run enough. It's called a spot route.
Yeah.
And so as these guys go up, boom, they take the corner, they take the linebacker out. And so spot route, a.k.a. jerk route, right? That's what Wes Welker does so well up in New England. He comes in, and he has a 2-way go, and he makes the guy who has to get them push to him look like a jerk, right? That's going to be something that's in the game plan because it's a mismatch, especially when teams are playing zone. He's going to come in because that linebacker has to push all the way to him. And it's between the numbers and the hash, and that's a long way to go, especially when you're to the field.
Yeah.
That was one thing I was super fired up to see.
But the other thing, that first touchdown pass to Rucker too. When have you ever seen Ohio State put both tight ends into the route tree? I mean, here's what because their safety went after the guy on the slot on the other side. Yeah. That's why the middle was so wide open, and it was like they can't do that. This week, Cincinnati, if they're not paying attention, I mean, that's the only way you get Cincinnati on that. Cincinnati. But now what happens? Where do you go from there? That's what always bothered me when I was covering you guys when Trussell was there.
Tell me.
Trussell would put in about 3 or 4 new plays almost every week, but there wouldn't be that play off of that play. You know what I mean? I
understand.
Like Charlie Batch said to me after Terrell Pryor played wide receiver in the Fiesta Bowl against Texas, they only had like 2 plays for it. He goes, yeah, that was their best play.
Right, exactly.
As it turned out. But they didn't have anything to go, to play off of it.
Right.
And this offense does have A, B, C, D. I mean, it does have, all right, you cover this, we're going to go this, we're going to do this and that. And that's where I'm looking to see where this offense goes now. Will it continue that progression?
I didn't know that we were going to get a Charlie Batch name drop in this show.
Well, no, because I saw Charlie Batch next week because I went over to do a story on Santonio Holmes before the Super Bowl when he got named the MVP. Remember that?
All right.
I do remember that.
I just love how unpredictable the fun.
Well, I got to know Charlie Batch because he was Terrell Pryor's one of his best buddies during the recruiting process.
Uh-huh.
All right, Schlegel, you know Luke Fickell as well or better than anybody around
I do.
Here. I got to know him a little bit covering him. One of the nicest, best, most personable coaches I've been around. It's not a surprise to me what he's done at Cincinnati. I'm sure you're not surprised either. You tell me, you're in that room with him. Like, how does he get the most out of his guys? What is it about him that allows you to buy into a Luke Fickell coaching?
Yeah, besides the fact that I jumped out of a closet in our meeting room when I was playing at Ohio State in a singlet, challenged him to a wrestling match.
And
I bet that.
We did a lot of.
Did you turn into the wild?
I bet that didn't go well.
Did you turn into the wild pig on that one?
No.
Okay.
It was amazing. And Bobby would be in the back. I got so many stories about.
Oh
Luke
my
Fickell.
God! I want to hear that one now.
Right. But anyways, here's the deal, though. Luke cares about you. And when he went down there and took over Cincinnati, who was 4-8 in his first year, he went 4-8, and then all of a sudden 11-2. Mm-hmm. Right? It's not just by luck. Right? It's not like he's over there wearing the same T-shirt he wore when he was playing here in '97. It's because his guys trust him. They bought in. Right? Brady Collins, who was here at Ohio State, is his head strength coach. And what are they preaching? They're preaching everything that Luke Fickell stands for, which is team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? Which is toughness, which is grimy grit, dig your fingers into the ground.
Don't come into my office crying.
No, we're going to go.
Yeah.
And so he is that way. His coaches are that way. His strength coach is that way.
His defensive coordinator is
It's Marcus Freeman, who I played with, right? Mm-hmm. And Marcus has been there the entire time mentoring him, but his guys trust him, and he has a relationship with them individually. Not just I'm the head coach.
Yeah.
Like, I know you personally, right? I have a relationship. He understands, in my opinion, the duty and responsibility that goes with to being a head coach and also just a coach in general, right? You are the caregiver for those kids when they're in your program. You not only are teaching them ball and getting them prepared for potentially the next level, but for life. And so you have to instill those things in them that make them successful. That's why they come to you. He embraces that, and that's what you see from his team, who goes out and smokes UCLA. That game could have been way out of hand if they didn't have that turnover going into halftime. But that's what you see. You see a team that grinds, that's gritty, that's tough, and that is exactly who Luke Fickell is. And the best thing about Luke Fickell, straight up, Jim Haycock is my guy, and Jim was fiery on the sidelines and would be talking to Luke. Luke would come over, and as fiery as Luke is, and as a competitor as he is, would just take a knee and talk ball with us. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then Haycock, he would get it over, and then he would come in, and we would talk ball. And I think that's why his guys are able to respond quickly.
Yeah.
And why his coaches are able to adjust quickly is because he understands in the game, it's passionate, it's whatever, but at the end of the day, I need you to go execute. I don't need to worry about what just happened. I'm going to go coach you up. And that is why he's so good. And that's also why the biggest loss at Ohio State over these last 10 years was Luke Fickell going to Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Especially because he wasn't replaced with a Luke Fickell caliber guy.
Yeah.
I mean, when Vrabel left, you bring in Larry Johnson, okay. And that's sort of what I think happened at the end of the Urban era. Hey, they won the Big Ten a year ago. There's no problem. But Billy Davis is just not Luke Fickell. I don't think I'm breaking the wheel by saying that here. And that sort of happened at the end with a couple of these hires where.
Well, I thought losing Tom Herman was pretty damn big too.
Oh, it was big. Because if you had him.
But the thing about Luke is Luke was not only really good at what he did, but he's a guy who had been there, done that.
Yes, for sure.
He's a guy who played the Rose Bowl after the 1996 season with a torn pec muscle.
Yep.
Just strap me up, coach. I'm ready to play. I mean, this is a guy who lived and breathed Ohio State football from the essence, was from this area, et cetera. And, that's a spark that's hard to replace anyway, but you don't want to hold it against him for going on. And I want to run this by you guys. I keep thinking back to that 2011 season. Mm-hmm. You were around, but you weren't
playing. I was coaching.
Yeah.
I was there.
Exactly.
I killed 4 deer that year.
I said you weren't playing.
Skinned them in the Woody because we were 6-6. It was
people don't want to believe this.
Bad deal.
This guy had a legitimate shot.
We're going to get some good stories.
But this guy had a legitimate,
you two together, this is going to be
This guy had a legitimate shot at keeping that job. I mean, believe it or not, he did. Because a lot of people want to rewrite history after the fact. The loss at Nebraska hurt him dearly when when you guys had the big lead.
I remember.
You remember Joe Bowsman's passing chart?
Into the stand, I'm there.
That's why I kind of chuckled today when Ryan Day said the play that impressed him the most was when Justin Fields threw it away out of bounds on this. When I go, man, you ought to see Joe Bowsman's passing chart.
You ought to see that one.
Yeah, but anyway, they were killing him, and then you guys got beat. And then the game at Purdue, that game was winnable. Remember all that? From that moment on, he was a dead man walking as far as being the Ohio State head coach. But the administration was clearly trying to give him a shot. Now, how much of a shot? He only got to replace one guy on his staff himself.
Brian
with Mike Vrabel. Yeah,
which was great.
Exactly.
That people don't realize, and this is what I said about Ryan Day from the jump. Ryan Day did a great job of coming in and making this staff his staff.
Yeah.
Luke Fickell didn't get to make his staff that staff. And here's the thing. Tress is one of the all-time greats. Tress's coaching style is very micro, which is relational. If you look at D'Antonio, a lot of his staff were Ohio State guys. Why? It's relational. They understand each other. But Tress could overcome others' deficiencies.
He was the hub.
Yes.
In the wheel. These are the spokes.
Yes. And then, so, like, when you have a Fick that has to replace that on a side that was very different than how he and Haycock ran the defense, right? I mean, it was night and day. Now you look at practice, offense and defense look exactly like each other, right? When I practice, offense would be over there, and we'd be looking at the offense like, what the hell are they doing? And we're over here just beating the crap out of each other. Haycock's making me do up-downs for some stupid thing I did, right? Like, it was crazy. And then now you got to go be the head duck and go do that, and you really can't even add a lot of value over there because you're not an offensive guy.
Right.
It's like, hey, you got to go do it, and the only guy that you get to replace is on the defensive side of what you know. That's a difficult proposition. But here's the deal. He did it with grace. His wife, Amy, was fantastic. She is like a first lady of football that you want, just a lot like Ellen Tressel. But he did it the right way, and it prepared him for this opportunity to go down because he knows what it felt like. He knows what he would do different, and he was able to take what he learned and go to a great spot in Cincinnati because he can recruit and he's getting guys to buy into his program.
And what told you he knew what he was doing this time? He had a list. When he got to Cincinnati, he had a list not only of how he was going to do things, he had a list of guys he wanted to hire, right on yada. And that's why they had to, I thought, as great a turnaround as anybody in college football last year.
Yep.
All these reasons that you guys love Luke Fickell and that Ohio State fans love Luke Fickell is exactly why Ryan Day knows he cannot lose to Luke Fickell.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is huge.
Can't lose to Cincinnati.
This game is huge.
I think if it's Tommy Tuberville still coaching Cincinnati and they lost this game, it sucks.
I don't know.
But it's not cataclysmic. Losing to Luke Fickell would be an absolute just atom bomb in Ryan Day's program.
Well, let's talk about that. So
it's a great segue.
So I know so I'm going to disagree with you because I think the one thing that, to me, now that might be a fan perspective, but not to Ryan Day, because here's the one thing I know about Ryan Day, and I only know this because of how he hired his guys. Ryan Day, for being as young as he is, very similar to Fick, is that they know who they are. They know their identity. Just because you lose a game to a guy that potentially could have had the job, that's not going to define him, because you wouldn't do that and go out and get Yurcik, who also is like an offensive guru, and have Kevin Wilson, who is one of the forefront guys of the spread, and put those in your room. He did that specifically to create friction to make him a better coach.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Talk about
now. So I would say yes, from a fan standpoint, it's like, man, what a swift kick in the balls. You know what I mean? Hey,
From the outside looking in, that loss
people would say that. But here's the deal. That loss is only devastating because it automatically takes us out of the playoff picture.
Oh, yeah.
That's the devastating part of it.
Huge.
It'd be like, hey, listen, now we can't go to the playoffs because that was our one loss.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We might win the Big Ten and everybody else does their thing and we're still not getting in. That's how you would look at it. We lost to a non-major
but you don't
power
ever
five.
want. But you also don't want to lose to
as
a
long
guy.
as you lose 55-20,
Yeah.
you're
So
okay.
They might win their conference.
Yeah.
They should be ranked right now. I don't have any idea why
They're
they're
not.
not.
They're not,
I mean,
yeah.
I don't know that necessarily disqualifies them from the playoff if you win the Big Ten and that's your
Win
one
out,
loss.
yeah.
But 55-20 maybe that would change.
Yeah, but I mean, but the thing is, this is that other team in Ohio. I mean, the MAC schools are really good and they've had some great success. But this is that team that you all have always thought was on a higher level than the MAC.
For sure.
And there are guys that take cast-offs, that take the guys that Ohio State doesn't get to sign or can't sign, and to lose, I think, to that kind of group, including coached by a guy who was not considered for the full-time head coaching job at Ohio State, I think it would be a pretty big blow for Ryan
Changes
Day.
a lot of perceptions.
Yeah,
It does.
would change perceptions.
All right, so let's get into it. It's that prediction time. What are the odds that it can happen this week? I think that Cincinnati, Marcus Freeman, that defense, Luke Fickell, it's going to be a much stiffer challenge for Justin Fields. They're going to throw a lot of different looks, things they're not prepared for. UCLA obviously had its hands full last week. I don't see a lot for the Bearcats offensively, especially if the Silver Bullets are back and flying the way they were last week. But Berm, I'll start with you. What are the chances here? You actually nailed the score prediction. I have to.
Did you really?
Last week.
For last
yeah.
week.
No, both sides?
No big deal, yeah.
He got them
This
both.
is no big thing.
No big deal.
Hey,
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's no big deal. He came and found me the first he could at the end of the game. Hey,
Jeremy,
do you remember what? All right.
Jimmy the Greek, Berm,
All right, so
Berminology,
let's
Birmingham.
just start with him
To
so
me,
that he doesn't
the
steal everyone
most
else's.
important thing Saturday is Mike Warren. If he's 100% healthy,
That's
it changes
true.
the game. And I don't know that he's going to be. He looked pretty dinged up at the end of the UCLA game. If he's off the field, I don't see anybody else on the field for Cincinnati offensively that scares me if I'm an Ohio State defensive player.
Right.
That said, Luke Fickell is very smart and very good at his job. I do believe the Buckeyes held a little bit back this past week on purpose. I'm going to go with like a 38-17 type final for Ohio State winning, obviously. But I think it's going to be a tight game at half where things kind of spread out in the second half once the Buckeyes are able to figure out exactly how they're running and what they're doing defensively.
That's a great prediction.
Thanks.
Because I do think they're going to come in with a lot of juice and a lot of passion, and I think it's going to be a tight first half. I think I was 34-17 was mine. Win by 17. The last 3 times they beat them by 21. I just think it's a tougher game, but I definitely think the second half, if we have everybody back like we're supposed to, especially defensively on the defensive end side, I think they can definitely affect their quarterback. If we can stop the run, we're going to affect that quarterback. It's going to be 34-17.
I'm trying to think of a highly touted running back, not that guy from Oregon State last year who you'd never heard of before the game, and then 3 weeks later he disappeared. I think he might have gone to Crater Lake and put up a tent or something. But I don't know what happened to that guy. But for 1 week, for 1 day, I think he ran for a quarter mile.
Yes, he did.
And then those guys, McFarland from Maryland, who has had his own troubles before and after. But I'm trying to think of a highly touted guy, running back who's come in the last many years and run big time against Ohio State.
They do not
Saquon
let that
Barkley
happen.
did not. Okay.
Melvin Gordon.
Melvin Gordon did not. Have they even played Jonathan Taylor? Yeah, they played him as a freshman, right? I mean, he did not.
They weren't
so I don't-
affected by Alabama. In the
I don't
Sugar Bowl.
see Michael. I mean,
Well,
I
that's 'cause Lane
may
Kiffin
have to
stopped giving the ball to Derrick
I may
Henry.
have to eat my extra wings after that because of this, but I don't see that being the difference. I see Ohio State handling them defensively to offensively. Ohio State sticks with its knitting like it did a week ago, and with those guys coming back, it's going to be a different defense than what Cincinnati saw on video from last week. But offensively, it's Justin Fields. I mean, are they going to get their act together? My pick, roundabout way of getting to it, is I see Ohio State scoring 45 again, and maybe UCLA, UC getting to 17. Y'all keep looking at that UCLA game last week and talking about like the play before halftime where they could have pushed it up. I keep seeing that quarterback for UCLA dropping the ball twice.
Oh, there's no doubt.
With in scoring position with no reason for it, and blow. having a chance to kind of take control a little bit there. So I see Ohio State 45-17. I don't see it as close as some people are looking at it. Not that you're seeing it as close, because that ain't close.
No, it's still you're
Neither's
by 17.
Yeah,
I'm just giving them one more touchdown.
I think Ohio State will be in control. I don't think it'll be in any real jeopardy of them losing, but I could see that Bearcat defense causing some problems early on. Probably around 31-13 is what I've got. I think all 4 of these are covers for Ohio State this week. If you're interested in that sort of thing, and I hope that you are. And
Great
you're doing
teams
it responsibly.
cover.
Yeah,
Great
great
teams
teams.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah, do it.
Well, when you got a defense that's fired up like Cincinnati's is going to be coming in to make a difference, is the best thing to do, you're from a defensive philosophy, but looking at it, run right at them, don't try to get fancy, play action them, because you can do that now when you're under center and stuff. Isn't that the best way to get them off their game?
I think what you got to see is that's one thing we didn't talk about. Like J.K. only had 91 yards on 21 carries, right? What does that look like in week 2? That's the one thing we want to see, because we want that running game. I think it's going to be predicated upon Justin Fields being able to read the ball. He missed some open lanes.
Yeah.
And so if he can get that read down and he can take off, it's only going to open it up for JK. And when they do that, at the beginning of that game last week, our offensive line with 4 new starters looked fantastic.
They were.
I was like, man. So this
Knocking
week
them
versus
down.
Cincinnati, they were downfield. Josh Myers is now.
Oh.
He's a prick.
Brandon Bowen, you watch him downfield.
Yes, I love it. And so at the end of the day, if we can do that at the beginning, that's only going to go open up everything else. And that's when I think we can take advantage of that, because then they're going to start to bring blitzes, and we have other guys. The tight end will be open. The deeper balls one-on-one with our wide receivers will be there. And then defensively, our ends coming back because they got to play catch-up. That's when the sacks will happen.
If you like offensive line play, watch the touchdown by J.K. Dobbins, the dive.
Oh, yeah.
Brandon Bowen and Wyatt Davis shoved a guy 4 yards deep into the end zone.
I think they killed a man on that one.
I mean, wow.
But that's what we need. Like, that's the one thing I've always wanted here at Ohio State. I wanted our offensive line, just like when they lined up, like, man, this is going to be a long practice. I'm just talking about for me.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this is going to be a long practice. We're going to see whose manhood is left after this game or this practice, right? That's what I want to see. That will have to show up this week versus Cincinnati.
This is a guy who caught wild boars and killed them with a knife, ladies and gentlemen.
There you go. He wants that battle. He's going to see one, I think. We'll see Cincinnati and Ohio State on Saturday.
How do we get out of this without talking about you against Cincinnati?
I know. How about that, right?
I mean,
the snoozer.
The biggest hit of the game against Cincinnati 4 years ago was him hitting a fan on the sideline.
That's right. That's right. Over 330 tackles in my career in college.
That's the one you're known for.
How many autographs have you signed with that picture?
I don't know. I signed them all. I don't care.
I know.
I'm sure that kid's doing great. I'm doing great.
You quit counting at 1,000, I'm sure.
Yeah. No, all I do, I sign them, no trespassing. Boom. Can't.
All right, well, we got it in.
trespass.
Berm made sure that we didn't forget.
I appreciate
I
that, man.
I can't believe we went
You
that
know,
far.
it's all right,
I think it's because in my mind I thought it was the Nebraska game. I was going to say
No, hey, people don't remember that game that year was a snoozer.
Yeah.
And
Except
the
for
best,
the 280-yard touchdown pass.
Tuberville.
and the best thing about that was after that happened, I had a kid that I trained. I couldn't train him for anything. Like, he was just kind of disinterested, low GSF, right? Give a shit factor. And after that happened, I could train him all day. Wow. He was ready to go. I mean, if everything happened just for that reason, it was good.
It worked. All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, some people run to the fire, some people run away from the
That's
fire.
right, man.
All right,
Some
I'm
people
running
like
towards the food. That's what we're going to now. It's been Lettermen Live, brought to you by Roosters. That's Berm, Anthony Schlegel, Tim May. I'm Austin Ward. It's been great. We're going to be here every week. It's a little bit different for the holiday. It's on a Tuesday, but we're going to do Mondays every week here, getting that food, talking about Ohio State football after every game. Looking forward to it with these guys. Looking forward to talking to you guys again next week. We'll see you then.